Hello everyone, today with me is what could be the next hyper value watch. This green grenade sitting on my wrist tonight could possibly stand toe to toe with the likes of the Pagani Designs and Cadisons of our day. This is the Specht and Söhne Patek Philippe Aquanaut Chronograph Homage. Now, as any decent watch enthusiast would have noticed by now, the brand name is another mishmash of European words to make it sound classy, but at least it's better than Panis or Dayton. The brand shares its name with one of the more overlooked brands in the world of watch complications, Lange and Söhne. However, can the quality of this cheap-ass quartz homage of one of Patek Philippe's most popular chronographs stand up to its fake German name? That we will see. The watch shares a case shape with one of the most popular sports watches in the market right now, the Patek Philippe Aquanaut, a watch famed for its signature octagonal porthole design and its super comfortable rubber strap. The chronograph version of the Aquanaut, the 5968, comes in green, blue, and an orange-black combination. Personally, I'm not too big of a fan of the orange and black, and hence I went with the green for the homage that I purchased. The watch comes in at a versatile diameter of around 39 to 40mm and a thickness of around 11mm overall, with its 48mm lug-to-lug and its chrono pushers sticking out of its case side. The Specht and Söhne Aquanaut Homage wears closer to a 41mm rather than a 40mm. This watch fits nicer on people with a medium to small wrist size, but fits well on people with a larger wrist as well after time, mainly due to the rubber strap taking its time to conform. Now, when fiddling around with this watch, I discovered that this watch does indeed come with a Japanese quartz chronograph as stated on the AliExpress listing. But not just any quartz chrono. This Aquanaut Homage is fitted with a Hattori caliber VD53. Now, you may be looking at me with that face that goes, huh? What the fuck is a Hattori? Well, you'd be pleased to know that the caliber VD53 is a decent quality quartz chronograph movement created by Hattori, a brand owned by Seiko Instruments. Yes, it does come with what essentially is a Seiko movement fitted inside, or more specifically a Seiko movement distributed by TMI, a division owned by the Seiko Holdings Group located in Hong Kong. The VD53 comes with similar specs as your Seiko VKs, just without the whole mecha quartz thing. For under $50, the build quality on this watch is actually surprisingly good. Honestly, I was really expecting to receive some light-ass, half plastic, half steel mumbo-jumbo god-awful creation of Satan, but instead I received a decently well-finished and weighty homage to the Patek Philippe Aquanaut Chronograph. Who'd have thought? The watch is polished and brushed in the same way as the Patek Philippe Aquanaut, with the only brushed surfaces being the sides of the case and the top surface of the bezel. The finishing is pretty decent, with no overly sharp edges, and the watch is made of what is claimed to be stainless steel, though I don't know what type. One of the only problems with finishing I feel is the bezel. It's not too bad, but there is a bit of a burrish feeling between the brushed surface and the polished one. Sitting between the bezel is a clear mineral crystal, but frankly I wouldn't mind paying 10 more bucks for an upgrade to sapphire. The pushers on the watch are also made in the same stainless steel as the case and also share the same quality of finishing. The pushers are surprisingly smooth and have no sharp edges at all despite the complicated shape they have, as opposed to some of those common round chrono pushers you may find on other cheap watches. The caseback of the watch is your regular solid caseback with the Specht and Söhne logo and light specifications etched into the metal disc, stating the watch's water resistance of 30 meters and the fact that it has a Japanese movement and is made of stainless steel. The rubber strap that comes with the watch is an homage to the sought-after green rubber strap found on the Patek Philippe Aquanaut that goes for a crazy, insane price in the aftermarket, after Patek Philippe very graciously discontinued or restricted it to only the owners of this specific model to prevent the aftermarket sale of this magnificent piece. Why, you may ask, does the scarcity of the genuine strap make it difficult to resell the Patek Philippe Aquanaut? Well, this is mainly because of how the strap is designed. Just like on the Homage, the rubber strap on the Aquanaut has to be cut to size and then held on to the clasp by two spring bars. This makes selling it off nearly impossible, especially for people with tiny ass wrists, because the previous owner has to have a large enough cut that it could fit the buyer's hand. If not, the buyer would have to buy a new strap, and with prices soaring to sometimes above $5,000 for an original uncut green strap, you could see why. Just like on the real Patek Philippe Aquanaut, the Specht and Söhne has the same strap mechanism where you would have to cut it perfectly to your wrist size or you risk having to buy a new one. To cut the strap, you first estimate how much you have to cut from both strap sides by sitting the watch on your wrist. You then cut the strap at the points where there will still be some wiggle room for the strap to be cut later on. Now you clip one side onto the clasp and you go from there, cutting one piece from one side at a time until you reach a suitable length that perfectly fits your wrist, whilst also taking into account wrist size variations during hot or cold days. This is a time-consuming process but is very worth it in the end. Why, you may ask? Because this rubber strap is one of the most comfortable rubber straps I have ever had the luxury of experiencing. No, this is not some amazing quality rubber strap from the heavens, and no, this is no Rolex Oysterflex, but it does come pretty close. The green rubber strap has this fuzzy rubber texture that makes it grippy enough to not slide about, but smooth enough to not cause any irritation. The strap is soft but also curved and hardened to conform and integrate around the case. This gives the watch a really sporty and sleek look. Plus, you don't have to worry about scratching the bracelet, because there isn't one. However, I wish I could say the same for the clasp. This clasp is again an homage to the Aquanaut clasp, but is not done super well. The clasp has a lot of sharp edges and definitely doesn't seem to be made of the same kind of steel as the cases. The mechanism on the clasp is similar to that of the one on the Aquanaut with the flexible buttons, but is made really inconsistently, with one button having a thicker mechanism and hence more resistance than the other. This clip section, with one side being larger than the other, causes one side of the clasp to require much more force to open, but fortunately, a better replacement can be found on AliExpress for around $15. The dial on this watch is surprisingly decent. It has a beautiful green sunburst effect and the classic Aquanaut grenade engraved or pressed onto its surface. Besides this, the logos and seconds markers are all printed well on the watch. The hour markers, however, I can't speak so fondly of. Don't get me wrong, raised digit markers that are also filled with lume are not easy to produce. That said, on my piece, the 8-hour marker is missing a small bit of lume, but is insanely hard to see. The hour and minute hand are not of amazing quality, literally just being a flat piece of metal with lume plastered over it. The seconds and chronograph hand are painted white and looks of somewhat decent quality but can be slightly misaligned. Besides all that, the dial features a well-cut date window displaying the VD53's stock white date wheel. The VD53 is actually a pretty decent quartz caliber. In contrast to the actual price of the watch, the TMI or Hattori caliber VD53 is comparable to the likes of your Seiko VK movements, with the only part that is lacking behind being the absence of the Seiko VK movement's somewhat smoothly sweeping chronograph hand. Pulsing away at 32,768 Hz, the VD53 boasts an accuracy of plus or minus 20 seconds a month. The specific version of the VD53 that comes with this Aquanaut homage is the VD53 C11 or C11 with a date display at 3 o'clock, your standard central hours, minutes and seconds, and a small chronograph sub-seconds at 6 o'clock. Sadly, 2 of the movement sub-dials are unused to match the correct look of the Aquanaut chronograph, these 2 being a 24-hour sub-dial at 3 and a 60-minute chrono counter at 9. This configuration results in the chronograph function only being able to show seconds, requiring the user to manually count each minute. Besides this, the chrono also does a funny, slightly stupid thing when you reset it, that being the small chronosecond subdial will spin backwards a few times, but only if you use your chronograph function for a few minutes. Looking at this watch in the darkness is quite a sad experience. The hands on the watch do light up well but don't last long. On the unfortunate contrary, however, the hour markers are only just visible in the dark. The lume on those are weak and they kinda light up like those shit bike lights that come free with a bike. As many with a pinch of salt, slight setbacks that this watch has, it is but however saved by its price. The watch goes for a whopping $44, and did I mention that it comes with a movement priced around $15 to $20. The value here is insane and is up there with the likes of Pagani Design and Cadison. Plus, with a few tweaks here and there and maybe a slight increase in price to cover the improvements, this would most definitely be a new go-to. Now there is only one thing to do. Hopefully the factory that produces these Specht and Söhne homages will have a serious listen to what I have to say, or potentially sponsor me for the next video, and make improvements on this hidden gem. I mean, with all said and done, is this a Pagani design killer? Not really, but it sure gets close. At the end of the day, it's a Pagani design in a much lower price range. If you care only about a well-functioning watch but not so much about the nitty-gritty, if you want a relatively cheap watch that you can scratch the high hell and still look good with it on your wrist, this is the watch to go for. And if so, dear sir or madam that you are interested, please make use of the quick and easy links in the comments that will provide me some sort of commission. Once again, thank you very much for watching and have a very nice day.